Chapter 2. The Register of the Living. On the morning after the attack, Bremen learned to count differently. Not in hours, because hours had stopped behaving honestly. Not in streets, because some streets were blocked by glass, smoke, emergency drones, or pieces of things that had fallen from the sky. Not in buildings, because a building could still stand and yet be dead inside. People counted names. Who had answered? Who had not? Who was in a shelter? Who was in a hospital? Who had been moved to another district? Who was still only a line on a screen that said, "Pending confirmation"? Mara Voss stood in the lower hall of the school with a marker in her hand and wrote names on a portable board. Children first, then parents, then grandparents, then teachers, then anyone who had come through the doors because the school had concrete, water filters, emergency batteries, and people who still remembered how to turn fear into lists. At first, the board had been simple: safe, injured, missing, needs medicine. Then it grew: needs glasses, has no shoes. Looking for father, looking for dog, cannot sleep. Mara had not planned to write that last category. A boy from the third floor had said it without crying, and she had understood that some truths belonged on the board, even if no official form had a place for them. The principal, Herr Neumann, had lost his tie. Mara decided that was a good sign. A man who had stopped caring about his tie might still become useful. "Do we write pets?" Pim asked. "If they are missing, yes." "What about plants?" Mara looked at him. Pim looked back with the full seriousness of a child who had survived orbital attack and was not prepared to abandon botany. "Yes," she said, "plants too." He nodded and disappeared toward room 3B with a torn notebook page and a pencil. Theo's message arrived at 7:18. Still at Hub. Medical line restored in Sector 4. Saw a pigeon steal emergency bread. Civilization continues. Mara smiled for exactly 1 second. Then Claire Beaumont appeared on the wall feed. Her voice was steady, but her face looked older than it had 2 days ago. Alliance Terrienne confirms continued rescue operations across Earth orbit and affected urban corridors. Several colonial relays remain silent. The term Signal Noir is now being used officially for the dark band intrusion associated with yesterday's attacks. Citizens are advised not to approach fallen orbital debris. Unknown materials may be unstable. Behind her, a map showed Earth wrapped in pale defensive rings. Some parts of the rings were red. Other sections blinked gray, which meant either no signal or no answer. Mara had learned during the night that gray was worse than red. Red meant damage. Gray meant waiting. Lena stood beside her, wrapped in a blanket too large for her shoulders. "Did we win?" she asked. Mara did not answer too quickly this time. "We survived," she said. "That is not the same as winning, but it is not nothing." Lena nodded as if this was a difficult lesson, but a fair one. By noon, the school had become a shelter, a message center, a food station, and a classroom again, all badly and all at once. Mara gave a lesson because the children needed something that sounded like a day. The topic was records. "History begins," she told them, "when someone decides that what happened must not disappear." Bram raised his hand. "So if we write it down, they cannot lie about it later?" "They can still try." "Then what is the point?" "The point is that lying becomes harder when the truth has witnesses." For once, Bram had no reply. They wrote what they remembered. The first boom, the black screen, the sound in the pipes, the way the windows bent, the smell of dust. Pim wrote, "I thought my knees had forgotten me." Lena wrote nothing for 20 minutes. Then she wrote 1 sentence. "The signal felt like it knew where we were." Mara read it and felt the air change around her. She did not correct the grammar. She did not ask Lena to explain. She folded the paper once and placed it carefully in the folder marked Civilian Testimony. That afternoon, a request arrived on Mara's wrist screen. "Mara Voss, your emergency recording has been flagged as culturally significant civilian testimony. Do you grant permission for preservation in the Directive Bleu Memory Archive?" She stared at it for a long time. Then she closed it. "Not yet. The recording still felt like a bruise. It had toast in it, and children, and Theo's basil joke. She was not ready for officials to place it under glass. A rescue coordinator arrived shortly after 4. She wore an orange field jacket and had a scar of gray dust across her cheek. "We need teachers who can read lists without panicking," she said. "That is most of the profession," Mara answered. The woman did not smile. Then, after a second, she almost did. They gave Mara a tablet with hospital names, district shelters, temporary morgues, transport delays, unidentified adults, unidentified children. She read until the words blurred. She learned how to say no update in a voice that did not make people collapse. She learned that hope could become cruel if spoken too loudly. One woman came looking for her husband, who worked near an orbital cargo reception tower. She carried his breakfast container in both hands. "He forgot it yesterday," she said. "He always forgets things." Mara searched the lists. No confirmed match, no hospital entry, no shelter transfer. Pending. The woman nodded as if pending were a place she could walk to. "Can I leave this for him?" she asked, holding out the container. Mara took it. "Yes," she said. "We will keep it." After the woman left, Mara placed the container under the board beside spare medication, a broken pair of glasses, 2 child-sized boots, and a paper label that read, "Spider plant from room 3B, still missing." Theo came back at dusk. He looked worse than he had in the morning and better than she had feared. His hands shook when he drank water. He pretended not to notice. Mara pretended not to notice him pretending. "The transit grid was not just hit," he said quietly. They were sitting in an empty stairwell, because privacy now meant any place where only one other person could hear you. "Something entered it," he continued. "A virus? I wish. Viruses have manners. This had priority without credentials. Doors opened for it, routes cleared, emergency locks accepted it. It moved like the system recognized it." Mara looked toward the wall feed, where the words "Signal Noir" sat beneath footage of broken stations. "What does that mean?" Theo rubbed his face. "It means yesterday was not only an attack, it was a key turning in locks we did not know we had." Later, K-Links addressed Earth again. This time there was no tactical display behind him, only a dark blue wall and the emblem of Alliance Terrian. The hostile force withdrew beyond confirmed pursuit range after coordinated strikes against orbital and colonial infrastructure. We do not yet know whether this was a first wave, a warning, or an opening act. Signal Noir is under analysis. Early findings indicate the event was not merely transmitted, it interacted. The word stayed in the shelter. Interacted. Not sent, not received. Interacted. Claire Beaumont returned after him and read the first verified casualty categories. Not all names, not yet. Categories were easier to survive than names. Orbital defense crews, transit workers, medical evacuation teams, relay technicians, civilian platform residents. Theo looked down. Mara took his hand. He did not make a joke. That night, the children slept between shelves of emergency blankets and stacked water packs. Aisha did not give birth, though she threatened to do so out of protest if anyone served her another protein bar. Herr Neumann found a battery radio and guarded it like a holy relic. Pim taped a paper label to a cracked windowsill. "Missing, 1 spider plant from room 3B. Mara added it to the board. Near midnight, the wall feed changed to a silent text bulletin. Hypatia project activated under emergency authority. Most people did not notice. They were too tired, too hungry, too busy surviving the first night after the first impossible day. Mara noticed. The name meant nothing to her yet. Hypatia. She wrote it down in the margin of her notebook because teachers write things down before they know why they matter. Theo noticed her writing. "Hypatia," he said. "Sounds like someone in procurement wanted to prove they had read a book." Who was Hypatia? A philosopher, a mathematician, Alexandria, long time ago. Mara looked at the name again. A ship? Maybe. A project. A station. A prayer with a budget. The wall feed gave no explanation. Only the name, the authorization line, and a seal Mara did not recognize. At 1:12, another bulletin appeared. Long-range investigative platform transferred to Strategic Command Review. At 1:13, it vanished. Mara did not know if she had seen something classified by accident or something meant to be seen by everyone. The difference had become difficult. She opened her recorder again. For a moment, she listened to the shelter breathe. Children sleeping, adults whispering, distant drones, a city wounded but not silent. Then she began. My name is Mara Voss. This is the second day after Signal Noir. We are making lists. Lists of the injured, lists of the missing, lists of what still works, lists of what must be repaired. It feels small. It is not small. She paused. Outside, somewhere beyond the reinforced walls, Bremen groaned in the dark. We are learning that survival is not a single moment. Survival is maintenance. It is water distribution. It is calling names. It is telling a child that plants can go on the board. It is holding someone's breakfast container because there is nowhere else for love to wait. Her voice almost broke, but did not. Earth survived, but survival is not victory. She looked at the board. Under missing people, damaged rooms, medicine needs, unclaimed objects, and one spider plant, Mara added a new heading. Questions. Beneath it, she wrote the first 4. What is Signal Noir? Why did it know our systems? What is Hypatia? If this was only the beginning, what comes next? She capped the marker. Then she sat down beside Lena, who had woken without a sound. Are we safe? Lena asked. Mara looked at the child, then at the board, then at the dark windows. No, she said gently. Lena's eyes filled with fear. So Mara took her hand. But we are not alone. For the first time since the attack, that sounded almost true. Before dawn, the spider plant was found. A rescue worker carried it into the lower hall in a cracked plastic pot, its leaves gray with dust but still green underneath. Pim took it with both hands as if receiving a survivor from the front. It made it, he said. Mara crossed the plant off the missing list. It was a ridiculous act. A small line through a small loss in a city full of enormous ones. Still, people saw it. A grandmother smiled. A boy stopped crying. Herr Neumann cleared his throat and pretended to study the ceiling. Mara understood then that lists were not only for what was gone, they were also for what returned. She took the marker and added another heading beneath questions. Found. Under it, she wrote, 1 spider plant, 1 medical line in Sector 4, 1 city still breathing, 1 child willing to ask the truth, 1 world not yet defeated. Then the morning feed returned, thin and broken, but alive. Claire Beaumont appeared again. Citizens of Earth, she said, this is the 3rd emergency broadcast after Signal Noir. Rescue operations continue. Strategic Command confirms that investigative assets are being prepared for deployment. We will bring verified information as soon as it can be released. Behind her, for less than a second, a graphic flickered. A silhouette, long hull, central spine, forward command structure. A name half visible before the image was replaced by the directive blue emblem, Hypatia. Mara saw it. Theo saw it. Neither of them spoke. Far above them, beyond smoke and cloud and damaged orbital lanes, something was being prepared. Not revenge, not yet. An answer, or the beginning of one.